See, Joe, the lights used to illuminate the fountain on the Commons. And now that the Frederick Douglass Bandstand's all renovated, wouldn't it be nice to put some lights back on there? You know what? I think they caught us. We're on the air. Why don't you sit down, I'll introduce you.
Thank you.
Well, you caught us doing what two guys that like to boost downtown Lynn like to do the most. We look at maps, charts, renderings, and pictures. I'm Cal Anderson, a local activist and host of this week's Lynn Lowdown. And my guest today is Joe Mulligan. Now, Joe Mulligan is a transformative developmental fellow. Welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate being here. It's the Transformative Development Initiative, and it's a kind of a startup through Mass Development, which is a state quasi-public finance agency, and our intent is to bring additional capacity in planning, real estate, and economic development to the gateway cities in Massachusetts, a select few, the first round of which being Lynn. So I'm the TDI fellow here in Lynn.
Wonderful. So how did they find you, and why was Lynn chosen, and do you work under one particular agency?
Well, what we do is we establish a partnership with local nonprofit, local private sector partners, as well as a public sector partner. And they're effectively my board of directors, and give me advice and guidance as we look for strategies to help bring some more economic vitality to the downtown business district here in Lynn. How they found me, it was a nationwide search, obviously, and we did a kind of a round-robin speed dating with a couple other gateway cities who were also pursuing a TDI fellow in their district. And kind of the resume that I had and the skill set lined up with some of the needs in Lynn, and was fortunate enough to be selected to be the fellow here in Lynn.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, how long is your tenure here?
It's a 3-year term, and we're nearing halfway through, so we've spent a fair amount of time on kind of organizing the fellowship concept and getting to learn the lay of the land here in Lynn, and then coming up with a work plan, identifying some priorities, and then looking to match resources to them to try to bring that towards implementation. Is your vision for the entire city, or is it downtown? I understand you have a very defined jurisdiction. Yeah, so we call it the TDI district, which is pretty much like a 5 or 10 minute walking radius in the downtown. So we started what we perceived as the center of downtown, and drew a polygon around that. The borders are fuzzy, but we're effectively thinking about the downtown area. What
we're coming to know as the Central Square / Arts and Cultural District.
It includes the Arts and Cultural District and the Downtown Historic District, which we're also looking to bring some additional expansion to, as well as looking for other potential properties for designation. That helps for developers or people who are interested in doing work in downtown to help you qualify for state and federal tax credits. Can sometimes be the difference between what you can achieve in rents to support a building versus the cost of doing the acquisition and the build-out.
Very interesting. Now, I understand you conducted a survey because you just don't want to come in and start making suggestions. It's a good process. You ask the locals, the local hospitality industry, the arts and cultural district, the business people, chambers of commerce types. So what did you glean from that survey?
Well, Lynn has a good tradition of doing planning studies, and despite the fact that you don't have a formal planning department, there is a prospective vision in the city to try to find out strategies for improvements and redevelopment. So we went and reviewed a lot of the work that had already been done, and plagiarism is the sincerest form of flattery. We found a lot of good ideas in there, and at the same time we wanted to do an updating of that, so we brought in a round of technical assistance. We hired an urban planning consulting firm, Interface Studios. They actually came up from Philadelphia, and we did a series of workshops with the community. They were open to the public. We did them in the
I attended one of those.
I remember. Well, there was free food. We knew you'd show up.
Oh, I didn't eat a thing, but I was fascinated by your pitch.
Thanks. The team did a really great job, and part of that was reaching out to the community, to the residents, to the business owners. We did a focus group with seniors. We did a focus group with what we call the new Lynners, many of whom English is not their primary language. We did a group with the arts and cultural folks as well as some school children, and talked about what their image of Lynn was, what their vision for the future, and what their hopes that they'd like to see implemented, and some immediate impacts, maybe some medium-term strategies, and then some long-term visioning. We're taking those ideas and we've built on them, looking at best practices and other ideas that we've gleaned from other gateway cities or other cities that have had effective economic development and redevelopment strategies, and we're incorporating that into what we call a downtown action strategy. So we're trying to move beyond the planning and bring it into the implementation phase and see where we can apply resources and energy in focused areas to try to enliven the downtown.
Great. It's good to go outside the city because there's no need to reinvent the wheel if there's success elsewhere.
There's a lot of good ideas around, but Lynn is also a great example of things that are done well. You've got a really wonderfully intact collection of historic buildings. You've got good density. You've got a remarkable geometry of street grids that have a real dynamic effect, and you have wonderful natural resources. You have proximity to the ocean. You have proximity to large open spaces up in Lynn Woods. It is really a remarkable city. It is a true city in its shape and its form, as well as its challenges, and that's what makes this an interesting prospect.
Now, your pitch goes on for a couple of hours, but one of the things that I wanted to focus on today is your vision for Central Avenue, right around the burgeoning new restaurant row, and kind of a unique idea for the Sutton Street area. There's a gas station there that has its pros and cons, but can you talk about that a little bit? I think we have some graphics coming up later to support this too.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ideas, and one we kind of look for a big bold idea, and looking at the Lynn Commons, is there a concept of maybe extending that through to the downtown? You have more surface roads than you actually need, and Central is a diagonal that transverses the grid. Some of the challenges of the downtown are your traffic circulation. So we took a look at that diagonal and thought maybe there's opportunities to transform that to a space that's not used by the automobile, but is a walkable pedestrian area in which also the merchants and the businesses that abut it could spill out into the sidewalk. They can bring out tables and chairs. They could put out their wares. And
in particular, the two restaurants that just invested in downtown Lynn on Sutton Street.
Yeah,
that would be
that's a great little restaurant hub right there. And we looked at that little piece of Sutton Street as kind of a vestigial stretch of pavement. It's primarily used for parking. It's not needed for traffic circulation. So one of the ideas was possibly, could you, at the beginning, as an experiment, could we temporarily close it, activate it with maybe paint the street with some vibrant colors, and then see if the restaurants or some businesses around there were willing to put out tables and chairs. I think it'd be a great opportunity when they have one of the concerts here in downtown and people looking to get a table and can't find one, and to have that additional capacity might be a good opportunity there.
Sounds like it was inspired by a little city known as New York City and their Times Square.
Yeah, and they did that. They closed that.
But they did it in increments. They tried experiments first, and then they just let it take on its own dynamic. And I go to New York a few times a year, and I never see any congestion there. All I see is people liking to be around. You know, we're talking so much here. We're almost out of time. We've got about 2 minutes left. Can you tell us what's going on for the future? I know you just had an important pitch just the day before we taped this. So what's going on there? Well,
we're doing a lot of things. We're bringing developers from outside the community to see if there's interest in their investment downtown here. We have to take a look at some of the environmental impacts that the city lives with that is constraining your development. But we're also got a chance to talk with the mayor and talk to her about some of the projects, about maybe doing some of these temporary placemaking strategies, is the lingo in the business, and transforming these spaces incrementally and see if they work, and if they kind of catch the imagination of the business owners and the residents and the people downtown, there's an opportunity to move that into a more permanent installation.
Well, I know the citizens of our city can't wait to see this happen. And any idea when we might first start seeing some of the low cost things you had in mind? I'm intrigued by the lighting on the architectural elements.
Yeah, we're
things
looking
done
at
on the cheap.
We're looking at a lighting strategy, and that's going to be through a crowdfunding opportunity that's also supported by Mass Development to look at illuminating the underpasses and potentially working with business owners to illuminate their facades to really activate the space at night and transform the visible aspect of the downtown area.
We could talk all day, but unfortunately we can't. We're going to have to wrap this up. So I just want to thank our guest again, Joe Mulligan. He's a very good fellow for Lynn, and I hope we piqued your interest a little bit. Keep an eye on what's going on here. And until next time, in every way, every day, keep loving Lynn! Come on, Joe. I think we got another map here.